We've heard a lot about the COVID-19 vaccines lately, but one question on everyone's mind is, can the government force me to get vaccinated? Welcome to Thursday's Child. I'm your host, Keisha Toni, a former teacher turned constitutional lawyer, here to bring you your bite-sized lesson on the law. So let's get started. On August 27th, the CDC sent guidance to all the states, asking them to prepare for a vaccine distribution as early as late October. Because initial vaccine supplies are likely to be limited, the government will likely seek to prioritize people at high risk for COVID-19, like healthcare workers and the elderly. The chief advisor for the White House vaccine program estimated that there would be enough vaccines by the end of the year to vaccinate and immunize probably between 20 and 25 million people. He said that manufacturing would be ramped up so that there would be enough supplies to vaccine the U.S. population by the middle of 2021. Now, at least one news outlet is reporting right now that early-stage clinical trial results show that the COVID-19 vaccine candidate made by Novavax is safe and elicits an immune response. But there are limits to what this trial can really tell us about the vaccine because it was conducted over a very short period of time with only a small number of people, all of these people of which were in very good health. The U.S. government will pay for the initial doses of the vaccines and the distribution and is working with commercial health insurers to offer the shots free of charge and without a copay. And this is all according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Preliminary results of a survey conducted over the last 3 months in about 19 countries showed that about 70% of British and U.S. respondents would even take a COVID-19 vaccine if it were available. But the real question is, can the American government force you to get the COVID-19 vaccine? Well, technically, yes. The central case on this issue is called Jacobson versus the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's from 1905. In Jacobson, a Massachusetts resident challenged a mandatory smallpox vaccination program as a violation of the 14th Amendment. The resident said that the mandate was oppressive and hostile to the inherent right of every free person to care for his own body and health. But the U.S. Supreme Court explained that individual liberties guaranteed by the Constitution are not absolute, and at times those liberties must defer to what is necessary for the, quote, common good. The court said that each state has authority to mandate vaccinations under its police powers, but the court used a really low standard to test whether the mandate violated the Constitution. And that standard just really asked whether the vaccination program had a real or substantial relation to the protection of the public health and the public safety. Ultimately, the vaccination mandate was found to be constitutional by the Supreme Court. This real or substantial relation standard, though, is really easy for the government to overcome. But it's not the typical standard that courts apply in most constitutional law cases. This standard generally applies to emergency circumstances, wherever this case is used, and where the state says the public health is at risk. So far this year, federal courts have used Jacobson as a framework to analyze challenges to governors' executive orders across the country during the COVID-19 pandemic. The case has been cited repeatedly in the last few months in cases involving executive orders where people are saying these things are constitutional. And this happens in issues applied to things like abortion, reopening schools, and religious worship. In most cases, the court has allowed the states to put mandates on these activities. But the state's mandates don't win all the time, but they are winning most of the time. So this case does provide a strong legal foundation for your state to mandate vaccinations. But what if you have objections to vaccinations? Now, some religious objectors, for example, don't take vaccines for various reasons, including because many vaccines are made with the cells from aborted babies. Now, if you have a religious objection to vaccines for this reason or another, then you may be wondering what you can do. Now, while states have the power to mandate vaccinations, most states do allow people to invoke religious exemptions to avoid vaccination. There are only 5 states without religious exemptions to vaccines, and those states are Mississippi, West Virginia, California, New York, and Maine. If you live in one of these states, and this really means that much to you, you might want to start writing your governor and state legislature about granting religious exemptions to getting vaccines. But based on the actions of some of these governors towards, religious and religious objectors in the last few months, I wouldn't count on the governors. I would go straight and directly to your state senators and representatives if this issue is really that important to you. In the meantime, most health officials say that widespread distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine is pretty unlikely to happen before November. But stay informed and stay safe. Well, that's all for this episode of Thursday's Child. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.